Hello and welcome to Focus on Liberia. Welcome. This is the Hour of Politics. Ansony Sieh, your host as always. Hit that share button. We have a topic for you looking into something mind teasing for you. I like politics. I just don't know why. And I know many Liberians do. But before we go into this highly political discussion for today, I cannot welcome you enough and say to you, thank you for following us here always at Focus on Liberia, where we always try to educate, elevate, and promote all things Liberia. Sharing the show is the only help we ask, and we are just hoping that you will be kind enough to do so. Well, what do we have is the question you always ask when you join us and when we join you. The plausibilities of a Boakai-Cummings ticket for 2023. What a topic. And why? We know the CPP to be dead and gone, politically speaking. So why is this revisitation of why we felt was the way to go, but then got into trouble and chaos and a political meltdown, and everything fell apart? And when all seems to be so impossible now, you are trying to tease our minds that there is some kind of possibility for these two guys to re-engage, to strike a deal, and possibly go into the upcoming elections. Seriously, Ansony? Seriously, Focus on Liberia. You guys must be joking. But like I told you, this is what I like. There's a reason I like it. And before we go into the topic, let me tell you the reason I love this. Politics decides everything in any country. And in Liberia, where we don't have a functioning private sector, the government, politics, gets to decide how we live, how lives get improved, how services get provided. And somehow it is a fact that until we get it together politically, until we get it together governmentally speaking, in terms of policy and programs, through a government that is responsible, robust, intentional, solution-driven, we as a country, we are going nowhere. And so you will agree with me, that is the reason we are still where we are today. Despite of the hopes and aspirations, despite of all the efforts, one government after the other, and despite all of the resources we are told we are so endowed with, including human resources, we are where we are because the politics has not gotten it right for us. The politicians have not gotten it right for us. The government has not gotten it right for us. We as a people, we have not been able to get it right through politics, through government, and through the leaders that we have always elected. And that is why I love this politics. But I love it for what it is. And I have no emotional attachment to any individual. And that is the difference between Ansony and Sieh and many Liberians out there, especially those who are worshippers of politicians. I ask them questions. In this edition, not to waste your time, good people, I'm expecting Steve Boley, aka Mose Mose. He is a host at the SK-TV. He will be joining me to talk about this politically juicy and mind-teasing topic that I have put together. To break this topic down, we'll do two things. Number one, we will be analyzing and questioning how it all fell apart between Kennedy Boakai and Kennedy Cummings. So before we can talk about the plausibilities, let us analyze and question how this thing all went down. Steve will be joining me to do that. But I'm not going to wait for him. I'm going to get started. And you're going to get started with me. And then number two, and finally, we will be prospecting the possibilities of a Boakai-Cummings ticket for 2023 victory. I cannot do this without raising the critical questions. The questions, when answered, will give us the answers that we need. The questions, when answered, will tell us how it all fell apart. Those questions are here. And get your finger ready. Oh, should I say finger? Get your finger ready because you are on that cell phone. And it's that finger you're going to use to contribute. The phone line will also be open. So, folks, Ansony Sieh, the hour of politics, a brain-teasing topic. Let us get to it after this break.
At Focus on Liberia, we discuss everything Liberia, from education to politics, arts and culture, entertainment, agriculture, history, religion, family, and technology. Focus on Liberia uncovers and showcases the best of Liberia and shows the world the truth about Liberia. We educate, elevate, and promote all things Liberia. We conduct interviews, panel discussions, debates, and more. Tune in to Focus on Liberia on Facebook and YouTube and be a part of the stories that make up the news.
This is Focus on Liberia, and I am Dennis Jah.
Dennis Jah, thank you. Ansony Sieh, hour of politics, where we do political analysis that unearth the truth and give you a broader, deeper, and succinct understanding of the things that are happening in the political atmosphere, if I can say. So let us raise the questions that will tell us how it all fell apart. And after doing that, then we will also raise the questions that will unearth the plausibilities for a possible Cummings Boakai ticket. So, folks, we heard through rumor, unconfirmed, unsubstantiated by Focus on Liberia, that there is this realization that in order for President Weah not to enjoy a second term, there is one possibility that is at 90 to 95%. And that possibility to take President Wias down, in the words of Vice President Joseph Yomambwaka, is when these two men swallow their egos, their pride, put their followers and surrogates and handlers in place, when the men are politically and look at their supporters in the eyes and project in their mind the future of Liberia. When and only if they do these things, then the possibility of a Boakai-Cummings ticket is possible. But I remain so doubtful as I discuss the topic that is even ever going to happen. For I know how these people think, because I take my time to follow them, to ask their handlers, to analyze the issues, to look at all the variables. And I'm not always right, but I'm always on point. So the questions we are asking to show how it all fell apart. Number one, given all that happened, is a Boakai-Cummings ticket possible? And if not, why? Steve Bole will be joining in to ask that question. I told Steve, I want you to come answer questions. Question number two, who or what injured the Boakai-Cummings ticket? So we want to know who were the players or are the players that injured this possibility of a Cummings Boakai ticket. Some of you have some answers there, I can tell. And we also want to know what all cripple this possibility. Steve Bole should be answering these questions, and I'm sure he's joining in soon. So, folks, let me answer that one to get us started, and I'll be looking at the comments, and I want to see your answer. So, who all injured this possibility? The Boakai help to injure this possibility. The Cummings help to injure this possibility. The Cummings surrogates, supporters, and handlers advise him in injuring this possibility. The Mr. Boakai's handlers, supporters, surrogates, and propagandists help to injure this possibility. And with this damage that has been done, that eliminated the political possibility, does it rob these two men of any chance of making it to the political promised land, the executive mansion? What is your answer? I'm going to tease your brain today. Look, let us agree that these two men had to cripple this possibility. Let us also agree their handlers had to cripple this possibility. Let us also agree their surrogates and their propagandists had to injure this possibility. And I guess your question is, how did they do that? We have been following this train. We have predicted from the get-go that this train was going to experience a wreck. That the wreckage was a matter of time, because the behavior on both sides, those behaviors were politically unacceptable. On the Boakai side, we heard that Cummings is desperate. We heard negativity like baby police. On the Cummings side, we heard useless statements like Mr. Boakai is entitled, Mr. Boakai is sick. Mr. Boakai has battery. He brings nothing to the table. He is the old author. He's from the corrupt class. He was part of a unity party that failed and corrupted our country. And that he said nothing. And that he said he was part. And that he said they squander opportunities. And that he's lived all his life in government and he has no records to show for his stewardship. We heard all of these things. Some of these things we heard were painful, and I don't think that I can say on air because my mom and my dad did a good job, just like some of you parents did. And I will hasten to say, some of you, your parents tried, but they did not succeed. And some of you, your parents did not try at all. Some of you, you are who you are and how you do things because you chose to do it that way. And you say it is your life. But our life is Liberia. And maybe you are hearing it for the first time. That life you live in, and the way you live that life, and the way you conduct yourself. You are living the life of Liberia. By that, whatever you do it for Liberia. If it is negative, if it goes in the news, they say a Liberian did this. It becomes a Liberian image. So folks, you need to get this thing right. So I'm all saying here that on the Boakai side, his handlers damaged this possibility. They all came with unrealistic expectation. They all came with assumption in this thing. And they were not prepared to make compromises because each side felt they represent the best. The Unity Party of Josiah Yaman Boakai saw Boakai as the political heavyweight who must be and must be on it. And without him, the chance of defeating President we are is unlikely. And so why listen to any other person? And if any other person can be the part of this team, that person should play second class, or play second place, or take second place. In other words, to be direct and politically speaking, that person should be number 2. And they should succumb, and they should come crawling on their knees and belly, because the Almighty Boakai is the way to the promised land. And whoever wants to be part of Team Boakai should submit, because there's nothing they have that Boakai necessarily needs. There's nothing that that person has that Boakai actually needs. And so they had in their hearts, and so they were not flexible. They got distracted. They forgot about the bigger picture. The bigger picture of how to win, how to solidify a victory that will be a tsunami against, believe it or not, a popular candidate who happened to be an incumbent, and because of that incumbency, should not be dismissed as a much stronger candidate. And then there is the Cummings side, purporting to come with a guy clean, blameless, politically perfect, who has all the answers for Liberia, and that just by the mention of his name, Liberia will turn into a paradise. And that because he has now been part of the political club, there has been this disappointment to our country, he should be. And Cummings has been so clear that the only way he can make that consequential impact in our country is when, and only if, he is Mr. President for Liberia. And so those who are in a cycle took his words for what it is and nothing else. They forgot that when you are climbing a ladder, there is the first step to the ladder. And there is the second, the third, the fourth, and the fifth. Somehow, this ladder that they're climbing, they want to start from the top. They have not been realistic, fellow Liberians. Their expectations, their strategies, their methodologies have not been realistic. So, folks, these are the kinds of behaviors that led to this nightmare and breakdown that befell these two political leaders, for which the CPP that we all know was put together for the two-person to run together. That was it, nothing less. If you don't believe me, it was with that understanding that a Nyambli will have zero ambition and a politically insignificant player, but dangerous player indeed, Beninan Wilfred Ure will express no ambition for a CPP candidacy. And why will he even try? That is not his area, and he knows it. And earlier, I mentioned to you that their handlers contributed massively to this thing. So let me go direct and go fearless. Mr. Costa, from nowhere, became the face of the Boakai's campaign. He has a big mouth. He purports to have the biggest platform. And certainly, he is a player in the game. I'm not going to dismiss that, brother. He is a player. He has a voice. He has followers. He has a way of doing his political business, except that He hides behind advocacy. He hides behind truth-telling and profit for his own benefit. He's in this and has always been in this for what he gets. If he had been for Liberia, if he is for Liberia, Mr. Sieh Bole has arrived, and I will be bringing him in. I'm sure he's prepared as he's always has been. But let me conclude my point yet on this brother, who I have some degree of admiration for, only for his oratorial skills. He has good skills. He does when it comes to speaking. If I had that, I would move the world. But that is besides the point. So he came. This is a guy who viciously humiliated Mr. Boakai. Because he was not for Boakai and he was for someone else who having to be his political master. And there where his bread was coming from, he persecuted Mr. Boakai and called him all manners of names and disrespected the other. When it became convenient for his bread, because his political master is not in the race, oh yes, now he's for Boakai. And what does he do? He goes to war politically, will demonize, humiliate, insult the side he does not support, and he thinks it's politics. So that's Costa. That's the Boakai side. I have more, but I have to bring Steve in. And then there's the Cummings side. All manners of names against Boakai, humiliating an elder. And they thought they were helping Cummings. And the Boakai side did that too, and they felt they were helping Mr. Boakai. And so, folks, this is how it all fell down. At this time, I will pause with my analysis that can annoy people, and I do it intentionally too, to welcome a dear friend and brother, Mr. Sieh Bole. Welcome to the Hour of Politics. Welcome to Focus on Liberia. How you doing? It's good that you are here and ready.
Thank you, Mr. Sieh. Thanks for the invite. Thanks to Focus on Liberia that afford us the opportunity to be on the platform today. It's been almost maybe a year or two since I've been on Focus on Liberia.
Yeah, a little over, yeah.
It feels good to be back, especially talking about Liberia. So yes, we are here. Sorry for the lateness. I had a meeting like we talked about. I had to, move through the meeting really quick to make it up here. But we are here, so that's important. And sorry to our viewers and our listeners for the lateness. That meeting coincided with the show today.
Yes, Steve, thank you. And I had informed them that you were coming. And folks, Steve had also informed me that he was going to be about 30 minutes late. So he's here now. Steve, the audience, they have been waiting. I have a lot of questions. You're going to do most of the talking. And I'm just going to ask these questions that actually are thinking politically. Number one, with all that happened, is a Boakai-Cummings ticket possible? If not, then why?
Well, I'm here laughing. But before I start, or before I get into the question, I want to acknowledge the Liberian people as the most important people on earth. But most importantly, I want to acknowledge the Liberian women as the most beautiful women on earth. I think that's a statement I've always gotten you in trouble with, but I will not stop, Mr. Sieh, because these are facts. But I think you've asked an important question and a good question. First of all, it would be shamelessly shameful for anyone to even think. Very embarrassing. After everything that has happened in the public, in private, even as recent as just the thought being thrown around that Mr. Boakai, Vice President Joseph Yuma Boakai, former Vice President Joseph Yuma Boakai, who is considered a government witness against Mr. Cummings in court currently for trumped up charges or bogus charges, to even fathom the thought of wanting to have a collaboration again with Mr. Cummings is utopian, is ridiculous, it's shamelessly shameful. It makes no sense in a word of people who got sense. I don't know. The other propaganda, this other news, or this other conversation is embarrassing. Let me put it that way. Very embarrassing. After they've left illegally the same CPP. So I don't know where this is coming from.
Okay. So who and what actually injured this possibility that many had thought would come to pass? Who and what are injured that possibility?
Ego, entitlement, lies, propaganda, fakeness. Let me use the word ganging up, conspiracy, and desperation.
And when you say all of these things come from or came from both sides or one side, what do you think?
I probably didn't make this disclaimer, but I think I need to make it as a Liberian who is independently minded, who has the right to speak to the issues of Liberia based on the information that I've unfolded both in the public and in the private. I'd get Mr. Cummings 30 to 40% of the blame.
Okay.
60% of the blame would be on the Boakai, Yombli, and what he mean, Benina Ure, specifically Boakai. And the reason for that is when they announced to us in the public, we don't know what they say in the private. When they announced to us in the public, they announced to the Liberian people that this will be a plain level field where everyone will come and contest for the seat. As evidenced by that, they said it would have gone through the primaries. They would have gone through the VPS, the voter perception survey, and all these different things, as evidenced by that. Fast forward today, here we find ourselves. One group of people refused to go through those things, such as the Boakai's camp. They left illegally, disgracefully, and so that blame goes on them. To Boakai's point, to the Cummings camp, the reason why I would give them 40%, 30 to 40% of this blame is, first of all, they knew better not to join with the likes of UP and ALP. I don't want to focus on ALP because they're nothing. They're not in election for years. So they're for me, they're just spoilers. They're noise makers. So I want to zoom in on the Boakai's camp. Cummings, knowing that, first of all, he was blamed by the Boakai's camp of not making them to win the elections in 2017. So that means there was already a bad blood by not openly endorsing Boakai. Also, some of the missteps that the red flags that were shown to Cummings and the ANC from the get-go, They ignored it and stayed there till this thing got to this point that it got. As evidenced by that, also, you would see that even his long-standing relationship with Tai Wong-wei was broken and fractured when he was spearheading his whole CPP, and they were getting prepared for the election, the senatorial elections in 2020, only to come to see that the plans and the programs in place in Lima County did not hold. It did not hold. So with all of those things, there were a red flag for Mr. Cummings and the ANC to have walked away from these guys. So staying there, some might say, well, it was a good idea. It led to some of these problems. Staying there where he was blamed for almost everything, it seemed like they were gang up. If it were not a help of maybe Musability at the time, or the Liberty Party at large, let me not use individual, the Liberty Party at large, it would have been chaotic and even problematic.
And Steve, to your point there, right? The Tai Wong-wei aspect there is key.
Yes.
Because like you accurately stated, he was so close to Cummings. And then their relationship broke down at some point. Tai Wong-wei was clear when he said, look, if ABC or Cummings is not going to go number 2 to Mr. Boakai, then let's get out of here. Because according to him, we call these people looters and evildoers.
Yes.
And then we are going into a marriage with them. If Cummings is not going to go as number 2, is not going to take that, let's get out of here. That was a profound statement from somebody who in Cummings relationship we cannot dispute.
Yes, and I'll have to also point out that in as much that I don't support some of the rhetorics of Tai Wong-wei, I believe that Tai Wong-wei had a valid point at the time. He saw what was coming. He alerted the party and the leadership ahead of time, and Cummings then stuck in there, And so yes, they will take part of the blame, but not 50% of the blame. Rather, 30 to 70 or 40 to 60%. The rest of it goes to Boakai and the rest of the people who came in, who made the public feel as though that they were going to have a competition to be able to get to the leadership of this CPP. Come to find out, no, it was not the truth. They wanted to use this as a driving force, which brings us today to the conversation, because this has been a premeditated conversation. And I believe even the topic today under which we are speaking also has to do with this conspiracy that they have from the get-go, that they wanted to coronate Joseph Yuma Boakai, Vice President Joseph Yuma Boakai, as the Senate Bureau automatically. So everyone that comes in a correlation or the collaboration will just fall in line, whether you like it or not. But then why did they tell us, the public, that this will be a competitive field? This will be something that, all of us will see the nature, everybody will present their case, and they will go into a competition, and they will come off the Senate barrier, especially wherein they could not come out with a consensus, because that was the initial plan. Come out with a consensus by last December or so forth. If they couldn't, then they would go to the VPS. VPS would lead to the primary. They neglected all of that. So that tells me that even the notion of this conversation that is happening, I can guarantee you that it came from the United Party propaganda arm in order to continue to push this narrative that Joseph Yuma Boakai is entitled to the presidency, or he's next in line, quote unquote, that how the Liberian people think, which is not truth. We've evolved as a people. I find it disgraceful that people would just put a stigma on us that we're
So Steve, let's look at that possibility that was on most people's mind of a Boakai-Cummings ticket that disappeared, and it's been rumored to be surfacing. No proof to that whatsoever, just to make that clear. Is an opportunity we can borrow Mr. Boakai's words was squandered, but not only Mr. Boakai, but by also Mr. Cummings, because they had to reach a deal through a consensus. What does it say equally about these two men, knowing the leadership that we have today, that they could not strike a deal? What does it say about these two men?
Well, I want to restrict this conversation that they couldn't strike a deal. I want to restrict this conversation to it. I think there was an attempt to strike a deal. I am not sure if this deal was having both of them on the same ticket. But I give you an instant as to how there was an attempt. Most recently, we saw them, both of them in Ghana. And we are reliably informed that the
but Steve, I want us to talk about the possibility, because it was an option, to be clear. It was an option. For both of them to be on the ticket, and one of the options they had to do so was through a consensus, right? So the fact that they both failed to reach the consensus, what does it say about two of them?
Well, it was never. It was. Let's be clear here. Let's be clear here. It was a wish. It was never a set in stone thing. Mind you, I say this to say because it was
not set in stone, but as well, even in the CPP framework, you alluded to that by saying consensus, and they were the only two candidates. So that was an option. It was never a wish.
Well, okay, then I'll have to agree with you that it was an option, but it was never something that was even going to say, let's do this. Let me break this down.
If so, can we fairly say that they were being deceptive and dishonest?
And that brings me to the point I'm trying to make clear, that there was one group of people, which is the Unity Party, that was being very deceptive, because from the onset, Mr. Alexander Cummings has said he is not going as VP to anybody. Let's be clear. He said it from the onset, repeatedly on different platforms, different networks, in public, in private. He said he is not. He wants to go to a competitive process and let the Liberian people pick whoever the leader would have been. Now, here is a caveat on that. The issue of building a consensus was not for both of them to say, I go as number one, you come as number two. No, that was not the issue of building a consensus. The issue of building a consensus was to picking the leader. So that means one of them would have dropped automatically. Now, it was not also guaranteed.
No, Steve, hold on. I disagree.
Okay.
The consensus as articulated in the now framework that's in quotes, right, was that the two men will get in the room. And I'm saying two men, initially in the spirit of the explanation of the document was that first they were expecting four political parties, right? And that they were going to get in one room. That was the consensus. And they decide who will go number one and number two. That was it. And then when Yombly and what's his name? Ure didn't have any interest. So it was left with Cummings and Boakai to go in the room and make a decision. That was the consensus. It's in the framework.
What the consensus was to pick a head of the ticket. However, that head would have had a responsibility to pick his running mate. It wouldn't have been necessarily the next person that you sat in the room with and came in with an agreement. If that leader,
and that would have been part of the negotiation. That would have been part of the deal, right? Look, I can let you go number one if you make me number two.
No, not necessarily. Not necessarily.
I agree.
Because the reason I'm saying this is because the issue of the vice standard bearer slot was left with whoever was selected as the leader of the party. So that means he could have picked from any other party. He could have picked from, so it was left open. There was even rumored of Senator Darius DeLong going as second when he had won the senatorial race at that time. There was that rumor. Now, so that means the vice standard bearer slot was left open to whoever was the standard bearer. The consensus was focused mostly on the standard bearer. We must be clear about that within the framework context.
Okay.
So yeah,
I agree with you, but I'm also saying, right, the fact that the consensus now was between the two men,
right,
and consensus is give and take. So they could go in a room and one could say, okay, how be it, I will let you go number one if you can let me be number two.
That's a
And that
possibility.
would have been a D, because the one who would then have gone number one would say, well, I gave this man my word that I will make him number two. And it was on that basis he agreed. So I'm picking this person. That will certify the deal.
Great. But we must also be clear that Mr. Alexander Cummings made it clear, even before the rumor of the consensus or the thought of the consensus, that if he were not selected at the time to be the standard bearer for the CPP, he would support whoever was selected. He never opened up to any vice presidential slot. That's where other people started to have problems with him and started going around saying he only wants to be president. He feels entitled that he wants to be president. Well, and he kept saying to the Liberian people that, hey, when you go into a football match, that was his analogy. You don't when you're preparing for a tournament, you don't prepare to settle for number one. You go to settle. You go to the tournament, and if you don't win the trophy, that's fine. But you go with a notion. You don't just go and say, "Oh, I will settle for number two." So he said emphatically clear that he was not thinking about second slot or vice standard bearer slot. No.
And Steve, how in your mind that in itself was not or has not been a problem to say that, look, I'm in this thing and I can only be number one, and if I can't be number one, I will support whatever process. How in any way you think that was not part of the problem?
I don't think that was part of any problem. I think it is people's right to choose, to select where they want to be. Mr. Sieh, you can choose today. You can choose today, you, Mr. Sieh, to say, I want to eat pepper soup. Maybe that's your taste for the day or for the week, or that's what you want to eat. Now, somebody suggesting another soup to you does not necessarily mean that you will take it. And if you refuse to accept what was suggested to you, it also does not mean that you're a bad person or you're a problematic person. It just
you are unreasonable.
Exactly. It just means that's your choice of preference at the time.
All right. So, Steve, all of this happened. Hell broke loose. Things fell apart in a faction that created so much bad blood. And now here we are. My next question is, Boakai and Cummings, it is obvious now, and most likely they might be going into the election independently, because the rumor we're hearing is not anything for us to actually hang on to. So the question is, who stands the best chance or possible chance of making it to the runoff?
Well, per all indications, from what we know from the public and from private, let's go back to records. We must revisit records. Mr. Alexander Cummings came 5th in the general election. Vice President Joseph Yuma Boakai came 2nd in the election. One would say from 2017 up until now, if all factors remain constant, George Weah would win the election. One could also say Vice President Joseph Yuma Boakai would go to the second round if everything remained constant for 2017. But that's not how we are as humans. We've evolved. President George Weah has opened the gap as evidenced by how they're leading the country. But the point I'm trying to drive at here is the numbers that Joseph Yuma Boakai, Vice President Joseph Yuma Boakai had in 2017, those numbers were not static. He has done nothing to increase those numbers. When was the last time the Unity Party ever provided any kind of sense of recruitment or enlarging the party or so forth? However, we know per public record that the Unity Party has been losing people as opposed to gaining people. So that tells me that this whole issue of Vice President Joseph Yuma Boakai having the number, it's not truth. Not only that, the party has been struggling financially. Not only that, the standard bearer has not been making any move But not only that, so I'm laying the basis as to why, who might possibly go to. You see, when people pass around with these talking points that this person get a number, that person get a number, and they're not in touch with reality and the facts, then it becomes a problem. Because anybody will come up and just say this person has the number, the other person has the number. That's fine, but let's substantiate these these assertions with facts. So with everything that is pointed out, it seems as though the United Party might not be able to make it to the second round. As evidence, but also that's why they're trying to rub shoulder and bring other people around them. If they had this so-called number, they wouldn't be.
Steve, you raised some issues there. But I will tell you, those things happen. And Mr. Boakai went to the second round in 2017, like you said, right?
No, I'm talking about more recently.
They are losing. Let me learn. They are losing people. In the 2017 election, people left the Unity Party of Boakai. The Ellen wing did not support, and that is the biggest chunk of the Unity Party. The Ellen Johnson Sirleaf wing did not support Joseph Boakai. Joseph Boakai went to the second round. Joseph Boakai didn't have much money. He went to the second round. So to say that because he's losing people, he's not going to make it to the second round, I don't see how is that, likely, Steve. What you say to that?
And that's a good question. That's a good point. But what brought Joseph Yuma Boakai to the second round was not minus the Ellen factor. One of the critical factors that brought him to the second round was the incumbent factor. Joseph Boakai had money to his disposal at that time. Mind you, sitting vice president at the time, going into an election, the Unity Party being the ruling party that has been there for 12 years. Now, please don't get me wrong. Part of Ellen factor might not have supported him. Part of Ellen factor also supported him. As evidenced by they wanted to maintain or keep the job. It was not because the new Ellen was going. So we wouldn't erase the Ellen factor. No, Ellen might not have supported him publicly, also supported George Weah publicly, but part of her factor, I would say maybe almost all of the Unity Party factor supported him. Joseph Yuma Boakai also had about 12 senators supporting him, endorsing him.
And so why will you not think that they will still support him since they want to go back into government because they enjoyed it?
Then let's go back to the history that those senators that supported him are not there. You see? So it takes away. That's what manners. Most of those senators that supported him are not there. But not only that, most of the senators that supported him switch over also. The rest that left, they switch over also to the George Weah camp because they are used to brown envelope from the Unity Party end. So guess what? George Weah have supplied them with these brown envelopes. So guess what? They found a new home. They're comfortable in that new home. Do you really think they're willing to risk the new home for the old home that has not been providing anything?
Steve, at the end of the day, the voters get to decide. And these very senators you're talking about, they are at the mercy of the very voters. It is that's the voters feeling the pinch of what is ongoing now on Weah, and they will not listen to these senators who are enjoying. They will listen to their opinions and decide to vote for Boakai if they so choose.
I wouldn't say so. Because the Liberian people who overwhelmingly rejected Unity Party, as by extension Joseph Yuma Boakai, or by connection, the Liberian people are still in existence. They're looking for change. They were yearning for change 2017 in President George Weah and CDC. That thirst, that idea, that quest has not been quenched. So that desire is still there for change. Now, on the contrary, Alexander Cummings presents himself on the scene, makes political mistakes and calculations by aligning himself with these guys, but yet he has not stopped doing the work to gain the trust of the Liberian people. And something, when we say some of these things, people might say, oh, that person that ANC person, that person that this. Let's stick with the facts. When you do the right thing, we say you do the right thing, you do the wrong thing, we say you do the wrong thing. In this context, it's been proven by data and by public evidence that the ANC seem to be one of the fastest growing political parties in Liberia as we speak. Not only that they're reaching out, getting more members on board, they're expanding their tents, they're making their presence felt. So if we were to think about it now, few years ago, Alexander Cummings was this, nobody know him. Nowadays, when you're talking about the top 3 politicians or top 3 people in the news or well-known figure or talked about on a daily basis, his name is within there. So that is to tell you that there has been this shift of paradigm. I'm not sure to what extent to benefit the ANC and Alexander Cummings, but there's been this huge work that has been done, as opposed to Joseph Human Boakai, who is sitting supinely thinking that, you know, the voters are still there. There's 400.
And Steve, if I can follow your statement there, that Boakai is sitting supinely. He's sitting supinely, but all these little pools here and there that we hear about, we can debate whether or not they are scientific. The fact that Mr. Boakai is usually the one leading suggests that the man might be sitting supinely, but people still want to see him as president. And Cummings is doing all of this, and Cummings and his side will acknowledge and tell you that, look, we still have a work to do. The fact that they still have a lot of work to do and elections next year speaks to the fact that they are now where they need to be to go to the second round in the first place.
So that's a good question, because part of the reason that made me to run late, and I think I will point this out, part of the reason that made me to run late, I was in a meeting with my dissertation chair.
Okay.
There was one point of the dissertation that was flagged out before we can submit that to RRB to do data collection. And this part of it, interestingly, here's the note. I'm taking notes from her. Here is one of the notes. This part of it was the data analysis. And we're talking about data here. So when people call in to say for the person to win an opinion poll, when people call in for that, those data must be analyzed. Unfortunately, we are unable to authenticate, quantified, or analyze those data. One could say it is staged. One could also say it's manipulated. How be it? Let's keep it constant that Vice President Joseph Human Boakai has been winning all the polls. Here's why I get problems. Here's why I have problems. Winning polls does not win you elections, as evidenced by Thomas Farah won all the polls directly on being, as evidenced by Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton wins all the polls. Barack Obama won her. Listen, let me say this, Mr. Sieh. Doing the work, re-establishing, reconnecting, going to the trenches. I gave President George Weah and CDC that for the work they put in 2017 or before 2017 to secure and ensure in the presidency. They did the work as compared to what United Party is doing, what Joseph Human Boakai is doing. They're just on propaganda scams and shenanigans. They are not doing the actual work. They want to make believe that they have the numbers or they are in control of this. That is not the reality.
Steve, look, what you are saying here is that Cummings and his team putting on the work. We see what they're doing. We see Cummings traveling. And he has visited nearly all the counties over the past 4 years. That is commendable. Even United Party people acknowledge that. But when we're talking about work, Thomas Fala put in the work.
Yeah, I'll call you right back.
Okay.
All right.
Thomas Fala visited nearly every church and got baptized. He visited every mosque and got converted. He was giving every key to the economy. He was working. He was dishing out money. Thomas Fala got a humiliating defeat. So I'm saying this to say that, Steve, sometimes you put in the work, but the people say, no, we see your work, but we don't want you. Do the people want Cummings in their majority?
I agree with the analogy that you put in your work, and the people say we do not want you, and that can be relatable to Vice President Joseph Yuma Boakai when they rejected him 2017 overwhelmingly, where he was flogged twice. He was flogged in 14 counties. Bigly, they saw his work as Vice President. They saw his work. That contributed to the decision. I agree. They saw Thomas Farrah's work throughout since he's been representative. That contributed to his defeat. Thomas Farrah won the polls though. They knew his work.
No, Steve, let me correct that. Thomas Farrah did not win the polls. No.
Thomas Farrah won lots of polls within Monserrato. Let me tell you how. Because they were giving sedition, putting sedition meetings on sedition's phones. Seditionists were calling in, flooding the lines. When you do a poll or so forth, oh, Thomas Farrah, oh, Tifa, all that devil go say. And so there has, listen, this is a strategy or propaganda stunt that these guys are running. They're comfortable with this. So when you go around, just to point out, there was the late Christmas City. There was a big one of his pictures. I remember that day when he posted. I sent him a message in Liberia, the late Christmas City. He had a big poster behind him with Thomas Farrah, I think, was winning at 84%, and Dixon
Sibo.
Not Dixon Sibo. One younger guy that used to be a lawyer that ran as well.
That is Phil Tapper Dixon.
Phil. His name is Phil.
Phil Tapper Dixon.
Phil Tapper Dixon. Mm-hmm. So you see, they stage these things as to sway public perception, public opinions, and public views.
All right,
so
Steve.
That's why I say it's not authentic.
Okay.
Let them run with the numbers and keep making this noise that they have the number, but yet they're still passing around begging people to join them. If I had a number on Ansony Sieh, as I claim, if Steve. I had a number, I would be reserved. I will be Labreme will say, I will be breaking, let people come to me. But why am I rushing around?
Steve, may I ask a question? Are you supporting Mr. Cummings?
No, I'm not supporting Mr. Cummings.
Okay. Let me ask the question then, Steve. So, Boakai and Mr. Cummings, given what we know, Mr. Cummings is in court, the CDC got his knee on his neck. Mr. Boakai has some financial deficiency. Being rumored that Mr. Boakai is being talked to get a court and relinquish his presidential ambition. All these things happening in other rumors as well. Who is least likely to run for president comes 2023? Boakai and Cummings.
Boakai is least likely to run.
Why?
There are a lot of things against Boakai that people don't want to point out. Yet they stay on this idea of Boakai is popular and his name is recognized or whatever it is. A lot of things working around against him. Let me tell you something, Mr. Sieh. You and I know that elections are very expensive. Politics in itself is expensive. Boakai and the Unity Party do not have the resources. They don't have the resources. Forget about all that noise they'll be making. They don't have the resources. Zero. Nada. They don't have. So you see, that's one. Two, when we point this out, unfortunately, it is the fact. You see, when people pass around and think that people are supporting somebody else because they stated the facts, they try to take away from a major conversation. The truth of the matter here, Boakai's health does not even permit him to get into this rigorous competition that is ahead. I'll be honest with you. It does not.
Steve, you are going into a territory Anyway, let me let you land right there.
Let me land so that we can have this conversation. Let me say this to you. We said this before, and every time we say this, people think we hate. Like, no one wishes bad health on anyone. That's not the case. I want to be clear here. But we also cannot negate the facts that will point out that these are things that are working against Joseph Yuma Boakai that will make him not to be able to run or to maintain this position. Because comes 2023, guess what? Joseph Yuma Boakai will have to be in the trenches. He has to move around. It's not going to be the vice president running around and making the case for him. He has to make the case for himself. people will vote for the president. They don't necessarily vote for the vice president. So the issue here now becomes, well, all of these factors working against him, and not only that, even in Lofa County, he's losing grounds in the Lofa counties. Key members, key people who helped him win in Lofa, who made a case for him in Lofa to win in Lofa in the 2017 election, which was the only county he won. These people have resigned. They've left. So this is not a good place to be. It's not a good place to be. And truly speaking, within the sub-region, age is not even in his favor. Look, this is just a shameful, disastrous cell that these guys are passing around with. They will tell you, we know the man, we know like this, but let's just put him there. And listen, this is not a sympathy context. This is election. This is not a sympathy context. This is not because they may have been around for a long time. No, that's not true. The narratives are changing. The paradigm have shifted. And so nobody's going to settle for that. On the contrary, I would admit here, and I will say it here, that Mr. Alexander Cummings has made some mistakes from a political standpoint, from a strategic standpoint, that put dent. But in terms of hope, in terms of getting the job done, in terms of resources, in terms of health, in terms of agility, in terms of dependability to produce results,
Steve,
most
may I
especially
follow
voters,
up on the Cummings side
especially
here?
the young voter will go towards Alexander Cummings as opposed to Joseph Yuma Boakai.
May I follow up on the Cummings side here, because you are saying if anyone is least likely to run as Mr. Boakai, and you gave your reasons.
Yes, sir.
And I said initially that given all that's happening, Mr. Cummings is in court. The government got him like where they needed him, and they have their knee on his neck. Are you sure that this case against Cummings will come to an end and he will be free politically to contest?
I can state to you emphatically here that either ways this case goes, either way, whether it goes left or right, Mr. Alexander Cummings will be on the ballot.
Which is left and which is right?
Come 2023, left would be conviction, right would be clear him off and dropping the case.
So what would be the consequences of conviction? That he goes to jail for about a year. They can drag this thing to next year and put him in jail for at least a year. And by the time he's out, election's over. You think he's...
The case is not a felonious crime.
Okay.
So the issue of jail or prison is out of the calculation. It's out of the context. So that's not even a possibility.
Are you saying he's going to spend some money and buy the time that he's supposed to spend in jail?
No, not necessarily. The law requires that, if found guilty in such case, that, there's a minimum fine, and maybe they talked about the possibility of, providing some kind of public service or whatever it is, as a remedy or whatever it is. So let's leave the jail part. But here's something that's important. Here's something that's important that people need to pay attention to. That even with conviction or not, which I thought from the beginning they shouldn't have even done it, from a strategic standpoint, I wouldn't have pursued this to keep, because you don't want to keep your opponent in the news or the talking from a political standpoint. It doesn't suit well, because people start to gravitate and they start to, but also serious note, either ways they do it, they've increased the likability and the chances of Alexander Cummings by keeping him in the news on a daily basis. They did not think through this process. They should have thought through it.
So, Steve, this whole court case, this whole meltdown of the CPP, we all have sharp memory of how it all went down. Mr. Boakai and Cummings, who does this meltdown hurt the most, and to what extent?
Well, by all evidence, the reason why we are even having the topic that we are having today, considering Cummings to be vice president, and that's why I say it's a shameless attempt, and I can guarantee that it came from the Unity Party, from the propaganda arm. They're testing the water because they left illegally and unceremoniously the children who chickened out or like losers. They left unceremoniously. Now they're finding a way to want to have a balance or have a conversation of a possibility of.
Steve, are you answering my question?
Seeing union. Yes, I'm answering your question. So at the end of the day, it puts Joseph Yuma Boakai, like I said, at a very big disadvantage, because here they are now, they are stopped.
So you are sure that in essence you are saying all this that happened is not hurting Cummings and it's hurting Boakai?
Because I wouldn't say no. I wouldn't say it's not hurting Cummings.
Yeah, my question was, given all that happened, with the CPP, who is it hurting most and to what extent?
Well, it's hurt Cummings to some extent that people told him from day one, don't join these people. So it hurt Cummings for the fact that those who were on the fence, who had this big reservation of him not joining these guys so that they could support him, they were proven right. So it hurts him in that context. It does, to be very honest. It does. Not only that, it also places some questions on his character and his judgment. For those who want to go, especially for those who want to go with the propaganda's end of this, as opposed to reading the facts and the reality, because they know the facts. They know the facts, but they choose to alter these things as to appeal to the public and present Cummings or other people as criminals and so forth. So you will see them putting all kind of labels. But at a bigger extent, guess what? It screws up Joseph Yuma Boakai bigly, because here is a CPP that were depending on to coronate him to get to the presidency, as evidenced by the lack of resources and the inability to make the case to the Liberian people on what except for the failure of President George Weah.
But Steve, bear you in mind now, Mr. Boakai didn't have the CPP. In 2017, he made it to the second round. So if there's anyone who actually does not need a CPP and will likely survive or make it to the second round, Boakai is most likely than Cummings. What's your take?
No, remember we established this fact that Boakai's ascendancy to the second round, going to the second round in the past election were based on different factors.
Okay.
Especially the incumbency. That was a huge factor. Not only that, the hesitancy of the Liberian people at the time with this notion that you are new to the politics, so we don't know you, or we don't, you're still new here, you're a good person, you're still new here. So yes.
Mr. Boakai, will you say has accomplished something against Cummings' chances and reputation, given how he played? Just to play the devil advocate, just how he played masterfully. Somebody from his camp, Benina Ure, took Cummings to court. He plays a coup. He says nothing. Cummings is in jail. Negativity against Cummings. JMB is standing.
Well, let me say this to you. I came up with a term for Joseph Yuma Boakai based on his behavior pattern and so forth. I term it as smooth crook. And the reason I term it as smooth crook is not out of disrespect. It's out of the behavior he's exhibited over the years. Joseph Yuma Boakai is in a constant habit of fueling problems or noise and presenting himself as this peacemaker, as this wise man, which has not been proven. As evidenced by that, they took Ellen to court. He and Mo Ali on lies, no substantiated facts to back it up. Joseph Yuma Boakai. There has been a consistent way of Joseph Yuma Boakai tricking people. Even to make decisions, he would trick them. So I'm saying to you,
any evidence to that? Any examples?
Example would be Joseph Yuma Boakai come to select his vice presidency. He went for Nukwe when he promised the guy at that time in Nima County that he would go with the guy. As evidence by that, Joseph Yuma Boakai plays games, took Ellen to court.
My records tell me Boakai did not make promise to Tiawan Gonglo.
No, it was not Tiawan Gonglo. I just forgetting the guy's name.
Oh, okay.
Before he made the last minute time, pick Nukwe. Before he went with Nukwe from Magibi County.
So you are saying he had promised somebody that he would have picked him?
Yes, he always played these little games. Plays these little games. So he's taking no responsibility for anything, but he sits there and enjoys these kind of things, like you see him doing now. He sits there and enjoys. He came here as evidence, but he came here to the United States in public. When in October, when Boakai was brought in as the CPP chairman, Boakai promised that he will fix the problems within the CPP. That he will his leadership will rejuvenate the CDC. That they would dig their foot in so deep that there will be no other way out except by winning. The CPP will be presented this way. Joseph Boakai comes to America and tells the Liberian people that when he gets back, he will fix the problem within the CPP. But here we are today. Where's the problem? It's exacerbated by his silence, and people think that that's being smart or that's being wise. So his silence alone, through all of this chaos and this problem, has brought, and I hear people saying, he speaks, and he said, he speaks when he's supposed to speak. He speaks when it will benefit him.
Steve, the point you made there is clear that Mr. Boakai said he has a track record of resolving issues.
Yep.
And that he was heading to Monrovia, and the internal wranglings in the CPP was going to be resolved.
Yep.
And he also said when he was taking over that they will plant their feet so deep that victory would be the only option and with the CPP.
And I laugh.
But then things became acrimonious. And Mr. Boakai went on record to say, as we know him to be the wise man, that when you are on your way to the farm and you come across a river that is overflowing, it can stop you from going, especially if you can't swim. I'm adding my own there. That river may stop you from using that road to get to your destination, but you can use another route. Politically speaking, why should you fight Boakai?
Well, I will fight Boakai because it has been purported, and some of us have never bought into that. Mm-hmm. We know that that's not true. It's just fallacies and trying to score political points. It has been purported that Boakai is this wise man. He has the political wisdom. He's been around. He understands this. He understands that. Honor Joseph Yuma Boakai leadership within the CPP. Nothing was done apart from the attempt to wanting to sell T-shirts from his party, and they were told not to, illegally they were told not to do that. Under Joseph Yuma Boakai's leadership in the CPP, he left. He left in his head, but not legally, which is a disgrace at this stage of his career. That you cannot be the father of the house. It's like you, Mr. Ansony, see, God forbid, you wake up, leave your children, leave your home, leave your responsibility, and just move out of state and say you're going to find a new way. What a new way you're going to find? You got responsibility. He was in charge of the CPP.
All right. But Steve, earlier, and correct me when I quote you wrong, or if I quote you wrong, earlier you said Yuma Boakai is a smooth crook.
It's a smooth crook, yes.
Okay. You want to call that back? I'm giving you the opportunity to look at it again.
No, Mr. Ansony, Sieh. Let me tell you something. Let me say this to you. And maybe the network, you're not responsible for what I say. I take full responsibility for what I say here. And unrepentantly, I want to say here that there will be no time in my life I will take this statement back. Joseph Yuma Boakai is a smooth crook. He has proven to be that. He has benefited. He has been in almost every government, said nothing, done nothing, benefited, but comes back and blame everybody else. Has taken no responsibility for anything. He wanted to distance himself from Elling by saying he was a pack race car. When he was pushed by the public, he decided to walk it back. Every day he flip-flopping. He has no stern position up until now. So yes, he's a smooth crook.
All right,
Steve. No disrespect, but this is how I decided to just put it in a nutshell. And
I want to know, Steve, did Mr. Cummings set realistic expectations when he got into this political marriage? And do his critics have a point here for saying he's desperate for power?
Well, to some extent, I will agree that to his critics that maybe desperation, if that is the word of choice they've chosen, I will use that word of choice to keep it in context here. Desperation must have caused him to make some of the decisions that he made that were not even calculatives. They were not calculated. They were not well calculated. They were not well thought through. They were not calculated well. They were not well thought through. And so that puts, like I said earlier, that makes people to start to wonder about his choices and his decision. You see, we must be factual about things. He made some very huge mistakes that he should have never made. He went into territories and aligned himself with people that he should have never been aligned with in the first place. So today, he's paying the price for it. But on the other end, somebody would also make the argument that if he had not done these things, the Liberian people would have also seen him as his desperation, making him to want to set himself apart, which would have been good for some at the same time. So either ways you put it, yes, Mr. Cummings made mistakes. Yes, Mr. Cummings screwed up down the line.
And the question becomes, and he did not set a realistic expectation. That was the first portion of the question.
I wouldn't say he did not set realistic expectation. I'll be careful on that. Let me be honest. I'll be careful on realistic expectation because expectations expectation could vary.
Okay.
You know, so I don't want to say he did not. For some, it could have been a realistic expectation. While others, it couldn't be. But from a bigger perspective, on a bigger stage, I'll be honest here that Mr. Cummings let some people down. He did not meet the expectation of some people who saw him or who wanted him to present himself as the alternative. However, how be it, I must say this on here clear. The political system in Liberia is so infested with bad actors up to the point that you will have no choice than to either work with them and get to the presidency and make a change, because that's what President George Weah's expectation was, that he would get to the presidency and make a change. He got there and got stuck with these same people, refusing to make any change. But you have to work with these people. Some of them.
Steve, let's look at this whole idea of these two men sometime back making a ticket. Realistically speaking, my question now was, and it's been rumored now that they are trying to talk again. So I would say, is the idea of a Cummings Boakai ticket a good political calculation in any form?
Let me say this to you. I think it would be disastrous. It would be one of the worst mistakes that Cummings will make in his life. I'm saying it again. If the ANC were to go as vice president of Joseph Yuma Boakai, it would be one of the most disastrous mistakes they would have made. in their lives.
And why so, Steve?
Because of the honor mining, the level of honor mining, the level of conspiracy, the level of lies, the level of fakery and trickery that was exhibited by the Unity Party, and they continue to exhibit that on a daily basis. They're running around with propaganda with all substance, shamelessly. I see some Unity Party want to be Unity Party partisan. People who did not even benefit from Ellen 12 years. I see them wearing tie and suit and saying that they're making noise all day, defending things that they don't even have no clue about. They just get a piece of paper to read it, they kind of talk. So the question becomes now, after all of this that has happened, should Alexander Cummings return to the Sieh United Party? Then he has a judgment problem.
But Steve, Mr. Cummings wants to be president, and earlier you said that is least likely that Mr. Boakai, if anybody will not run, will be the one not to run. And your reason you stated was because of his health. So why will you not think it would be a smart political calculation for Cummings to go number 2? Should that misfortune, though we're not praying for it, that is life, we will all die anyway. You know, when that time comes for Mr. Cummings to be the president.
Well, if Cummings was to do that, then that would authenticate his desperation. First of all, it would be sad and unfortunate for anyone to want to get to the presidency, not based on work, not based on merit, not based on the labyrinth people electing you, but rather with a hope and aspiration that somebody would become incapacitated or something will happen to them, and then automatically you go up to the presidency or whatever it is. Let me tell you something, Mr. Sieh. With this Unity Party that we're seeing around here, with this Unity Party where the CDC learned from which the CDC learned everything that they are doing, they're just exacerbating it. They're just doing it in the open now. With this Unity Party, I doubt that even if they came to the presidency, which would not happen, even if they came to the presidency, whoever they came with and something would happen to Vice President Joseph Yuma Boakai, I doubt that they would even allow or do away for that person to come to be president. That will not happen.
Steve.
These guys, dangerous folks.
Steve, Manions, Cummings, and the ANC, can Mr. Boakai build a stronger and winnable coalition to beat President Weah? And also, Manions Boakai and the Unity Party, can Cummings build a stronger and winnable opposition that can defeat President Weah?
Let me tell you something. I challenge the Unity Party. Anywhere, anytime, let them build a coalition. They don't have the resources. They don't have the gravitas. They don't have the means. Who are they going to build connection with? Who want to go waste their time making a case to defend somebody on a crime that they committed or some kind of things that they did for 12 years that is associated with them, that they carry as a burden? Who wants to be doing that? Who wants to waste their time and bring the resources for that? We've heard rumor, and I thank Councillor Tawan Gongo for coming out and putting stop to that nonsense rumor from the get-go. I would hope the ANC will come out and stop and clarify to the public the position on this rumor that is running around. Oh, I love the step that Tawan Gongo took by nipping in the bud from the get-go. Listen, on the United Party side, all the noise that were making, they were leaving the CPP. And when they leave, they were going to form this one. They were going to do that one. Where are they today? Where? Nowhere. They're going nowhere. They're just, like Boakai said, they're all packed somewhere and they will be packed. They didn't get nothing to offer the Liberian people. They didn't go sit down. But let's come to Cummings' chances of forming a coalition. Let's come to that. That's possible. Look, it is possible. It is possible because, first of all, the Liberty Party, who has come maybe fourth or third, I stand to be corrected, in most of the elections, they're still in a collaboration, the CPP. And let's be clear to the public. The CPP is not dead, as these propagandists and these guys are saying. The CPP is not dead. Nobody should fool you. Nobody should lie to you. The CPP is not dead. Joseph Yuma Boakai and Bernard Ayue, left unceremoniously. They left illegally. But let's come to Cummings' chances. The CPP still has two collaborating parties there. Not only that, there are negotiations with other people from what we are hearing from behind closed doors. There are negotiations. They're having conversations. They have the resources. They have the means to do these negotiations. You don't have to be passing around defending other people's wrong that they're doing. They present themselves as the alternative because they have been able to stay the course regardless of what's going on. They have been able to stay in the course and so forth. So this is the big difference between Alexander Cummings and Joseph Yuma Boakai. I want to see who they're able to attract. I really want to see.
Thank you, Mr. Steve Bole, for the answers you are providing to these critical questions that I'm asking folks in cyberspace. You are watching Focus on Liberia on the Hour of Politics. Ansony Sieh, always your host, asking biting questions to dig deeper into the issues. I remember another time we had Steve here asking a question. He said, "Tammy, you guys can ask so hard questions you guys can be asking." We try our best here, folks. We're going to take a short break. Get your phone numbers ready. Today, I will not read comments. I'm taking calls. I want to hear from you. Are you ready? Some are, some may not. We'll take a break. And when we come back, we'll start taking the calls. And folks, load in the strolling text below. The number that starts with 605-313-6774 and enter the code 791403#. That is the only number to call to participate. A short break. We'll be right back and we'll start talking to you. We'll be right back.
Hi, my name is Addie Tyler from Pennsylvania, and you're watching Focus on Liberia.
Hello, my name is Talvina Cole. I am an activist, and you're watching Focus on Liberia.
At Focus on Liberia, we discuss everything Liberia, from education to politics, arts and culture, entertainment, agriculture, history, religion, family, and technology. Focus on Liberia uncovers and showcases the best of Liberia and shows the world the truth about Liberia. We educate, elevate, and promote all things Liberia. We conduct interviews, panel discussions, debates, and more. Tune in to Focus on Liberia on Facebook and YouTube and be a part of the stories that make up the news.
This is Focus on Liberia, and I am Dennis Ja.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, folks. We are back with you. We will soon go to the phone line. So again, folks, the number to call is right there in the scrolling text below. I will display it on the screen for some time because some people sometimes have a hard time seeing the number. This is it. Steve, before we go to the callers, I would like to know, of these two men, who can beat President Weah?
Well, from all indications,
Still, can you increase the volume of your device? You are a little low.
you can hear me.
I can hear you, but it's just low.
Let me see you. Hold on.
Mm-hmm.
Is it much better?
Yeah, it's much better. Go ahead.
All right. Well, from all indications, Mr. Sieh,
Right.
it is a proven fact that Joseph Yuma Boakai is not able to defeat George Weah. He is not. even when they had a face-to-face, one-on-one encounter, just two of them, he was beaten. And not only beaten, he was flogged bigly.
Okay.
So
All right. I'll leave it there. Let's bring in the callers. They are tested to participate. Let me see our first caller here. This person is the first caller.
This line is now on hold. This line is now off hold.
Hello there, caller. Your name and where you joining us from?
This is Ben calling from Minnesota. How are you?
All right, Ben, hold on there. Let me connect this to the speaker quickly here. All right, Ben, go ahead. You are live.
Yeah, so I just want to speak on the issue about Mr. Cummings being desperate. That word desperate, I see a lot of people use that on so many occasions. If anybody is not desperate for Liberia, that person must be sick in the head. As bad as that country is, you want people to be desperate to change things. You gotta be eager. The country is so bad. How bad should this country go down because somebody is serious about it? So people think they are using the word desperate in a negative way, but I see it as a positive thing. Because Liberia is so bad that it leaves people with that desperate drive to take it to another level. That's all I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Let me bring in this other caller here. Caller with 612-475-4023. Like, yeah, you are Saros.
What's up, Mr. Yeah, this is Brazilian man calling from Minneapolis.
Brazilian man, let's hear you.
Well, I've been following the show and I've been listening to Steve Twin. I think he lists a couple of points here about who was damaged the most from the CPP. I think if you look at it logically, you will want to say Cummings because he destroyed his own brand. He undercut his own message by saying he's somebody different. He's from the outside. He outside of politics. He got clean hands, never participated in things relating to corruption. But then at the end of the day, you cannot coin that kind of phrase or to say that's your message and then you get into a collaboration with the likes of Ure and Boakai and other people. So I think it was a negative on his part. But then if you look at it again from a political standpoint, it was a double-edged sword. Based on Cummings' decision in 2017, after people came with the idea of a collaboration, we're going to be seen again as the guy who will deviate from this so-called collaboration. So I guess the calculation was, if we go into a collaboration, then we will all do get out and see the last person standing. But unfortunately, like I keep telling people, the idea of the CPP was not about competition. It was about coronation. It was about making Joseph Boakai the presumptive nominee, and anybody coming to collaboration played second, third, and fourth fiddle. That was the whole idea. So when you hear people talking about coming to desperate, it's not desperation as you myself define desperation. It's all about saying, it's an entitlement mindset that Joseph Boakai been here for long. He's part of the establishment. You just cannot come from outside and put the challenge to him. He's already presumptive. We're carrying him as the head. That's why you hear the word, coming to desperate. Because we really want to talk about desperation, I think it will be Joseph Boakai. You've been in politics for almost 4 decades. You became vice president for 12 years. You were beaten resoundingly in the last election, and then you want to go back again. I mean, how well can you define desperation? So one thing I understand is like Brentford got their own way of coining words. So when they say desperation, it's not how you and myself see desperation.
All right.
That whole entitlement in the from the political standpoint. But here is my thing. People talk about Joseph Boakai wisdom, and I will call my brother George Lobo to tell me the whole wisdom to give me a laundry list of that we keep talking about wisdom when it comes to the DP because I've been monitoring the DP for a very long time.
Thank you.
I got the ultimate respect for him. I don't, but anyway, my time is up. Let me go out, bro.
All right, Brother, thank you so much. Let's hear from Matthew Sieh. Mr. Sieh, quickly.
Thank you, Mr. Sieh. I am so grateful. You know, my brother, you have a guest, Mr. Steve Bullet. I understand that he is not a supporter of Cummings.
Yeah. Can you raise your voice a little bit?
I would just ask you again. So just admit that he is a supporter of Trump. It's not going to hurt you. It's not going to move you anywhere. Since I have been watching from the beginning of this show, we have been bashing DNC. We have been saying all the negative things. Just admit almost 3 words that you are a supporter of Cummings. It's not going to hurt you. And secondly, I just want to tell you something. My uncle used to belong to a club in Monrovia, a Basel club. And that club was called Wait and See. They had the president, Tubman Towell was part of that club. So, my brother, wait and see.
Thank you.
And see what will happen. Thank you so much.
All right. Let's take this one quickly. Phone number ending in 0934. Your name and where you joining us from?
I'm calling you from the Houston area, Texas.
Okay.
Yeah. You see, what Steve doesn't really understand is that.
And your name, please. Your name, please.
Oh, my name is Topa.
Okay.
Yeah, what Steve doesn't understand is that the Liberian people, see, I've been going to Liberia since 2004. I've never spent Christmas season here since 2004.
Wow.
I'm not a politician and I don't understand politics very well. But my anecdotal statistics tells me that based on the people I talk to on the ground, when I go to Liberia, I don't only stay in Monrovia, I travel everywhere. I take risks to go everywhere in Liberia, except the far southeast because of the road conditions. But look, to say that Joe Boakai does not have the funds, does not have the resources, believe me, the Liberian people, at the end of the day, they decide. You see, one thing about Cummings supporters, they are all in the United States. Some of them have never even gone to Liberia to see on the ground. Talk to the people.
Are you sure? Are you sure all of them in the United States?
I'm telling you this. In the market women that put their lappers down for John we had to walk on.
So what's about the 112,000 that voted for him? They all came from the United States?
Well, I'm not saying that they all came from the United States. But
that's why you just said earlier. That's why I asked the question, but go ahead.
Yeah, but all I'm saying here is I listen to different platforms. Look, I know Cummings well. Cummings' mother's house is less than 3 miles away from mine. I know all his sisters, including the one that passed away when Cummings came for the funeral. He and I talked. I know him very, very well. But look, Cummings does not have the numbers right now to win Joy Weir.
All right, thank you.
Joe Boakai does not have a chance. I think Steve, he's dreaming.
All right, thank you, sir.
All right, bye.
Thank you. Let us bring this caller in. Callers calling from Columbus, Ohio, ending in 1818. Your name, please. Caller, are you there? Caller, I'm speaking to you. I just heard sound from you. You're calling from Ohio, 1818.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, please speak louder. What's your name?
Okay, yeah, thank you. My name is Mr. Mo, and I'm actually calling from Minnesota.
Oh,
How
okay.
you doing, sir?
Yeah, I'm doing well.
All right, thank you. I mean, it's a great show, and I'm enjoying the topic. I'm enjoying the guest you have in there. But surprisingly, the guest is not sticking to the point, because whenever you ask him a question, he cannot answer the question. But he tries to scandalize another candidate, which is Joseph Boakai. And I tell you this, he had not answered the question about the COP. And if he's saying Joseph Boakai is a crook, how do we refer to multi-abilities that Honorable Cummings agreed to make him his first standard bearer. And at the end of the day, we didn't know. Boakai-Ability had to go on a live talk show and expose the agreement. And at the end of the day, Boakai-Ability also threatened and gave them ultimatum up to 15th of April. So we have credibility issues.
Are you suggesting because of that Cummings too is a crook?
It is clear spelled out because an ultimatum has been given to him by his ally that if you don't sign this MOU you agree to, I know what next I will do. There is a document. I didn't say that. His ally said that.
I want a clear-cut answer from you. Are you saying Cummings is a crook or not?
He is a crook. He is not credible. He is not credible. Who said that? His ally said so. Now, let us go to the document.
But Cummings could argue that they are still trying to work. Hold on, Mr. Toba. Cummings, hold on, Mr. Toba. Cummings could make the argument. Are you listening? Cummings could make the argument, well, we are still working on this deal. It's not to the point where we can announce it to the public. So because he's yet to announce it, how is that in any way making a crook?
Thank you. To the point. His ally said he was given the first 60 days. He did not sign. He was given the next 90 days. He did not sign. His ally said, okay, we gave you up to April 15th. While we are in our convention, whatsoever document you send is a document he's going to go by. So it proves that he's not credible. It proves that he's not trustworthy. Now, if Cummings is credible, if he's trustworthy, why he refused for the case in the court to that be alive?
Thank you.
That we have shown his transparency.
Thank you.
So because he refused for the case to be alive, there is a question mark to his credibility. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. We have another caller here, Mr. George Preston Lobo, an ardent, uncompromising, unrelenting, unbending surrogate of Joseph Boakai, the man from the drive. Welcome.
Mr. Sieh, I want to say thank you very much, and thank you for the opportunity to be here. How you doing?
I'm doing well.
Okay. I just call in to provide some basic education to the discourse.
Okay.
Yes, so a few things I wanted to clarify.
All right. I give you 2.5 minutes, please.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Sieh, you see, it is important that when people come out to these public discussions, that people do their homework and come with substance. Making your opinion appear to be fact does not mean it is fact. And in a librarian society, one of the problems we have is the amount of people that pretend to know, in actuality they don't know. And here's what I'm saying. When you refer to the former vice president as a crook, it's not just, we're not finding it insulting, we're not finding it to be disrespectful. But let's pair the two of them. This man has been in public service for 25 years. He has never ever been taken to court for any civil litigation. Never. Now, the man who seeks voting support, and even though he can man up to say, I'm a proud supporter of Mr. Cummings, this is the most pathetic thing about it, about young people who want to talk about integrity. I think the most important thing to do is to say, this is my style, and let the people respect you. The fact that you can man up to even say, I'm proud of the style that I support, when you come out to make the argument for him, that should speak to people's character. Now, let me say this. Ambassador Boakai, 25 years of public service, never ever been brought to court on any allegations of any wrongdoing. Mr. Cummings, less than 5 years involved in national politics. Today, he is a criminal defendant in a forgery case. I think the library people should be able to tell who is a criminal if we have to make this argument. But let's fast forward the conversation, because for me, I'm interested about the library people. You know, this conspiracy theory about the Unity Party, it is the UP folks that want Mr. Cummings to go as running mate to that of what his name, Mr. Boakai. Ansony, you've spoken to me in private and in public, and let me be very, very clear. It will be over my dead body to see Arizona Cummings Vice President to send you my brother. It would never happen. I repeat, that is impossible. And we at no point in time have any desire for it. The very first thing we must not forget, I listened to Steve, but I think Steve needs to familiarize himself with the CPP happenings first and foremost. When he didn't say, he was proud to talk about Ambassador Boakai-Cummings and Liberian people that upon his return to Liberia, that the CPP was going to be back together. What Steve would not tell the Liberian people, that is the level of dishonesty, is to articulate to the Liberian people that how many meetings did Mr. Cummings attended rather. Mr. Cummings made it his obligation to undermine the Unity Party and the leadership of Ambassador Boakai as chairman of the CPP. Every time he was invited, there were excuses given by Mr. Cummings.
30 seconds left.
Ambassador Boakai let me finish on this note. Ambassador Boakai extended every single CPP leader turning over ceremony. Mr. Cummings refused to do that with Ambassador Boakai. So I think when we speak about the CPP, it is good that we tell the Liberian people the fact. And Mr. Sieh, I respect FOL. And I think when people come out to this platform, especially when we're speaking in terms of the CPP, I wanted for you to be able to ask people to educate the Liberian people. If you truly believe that the CPP framework document was altered, yes or no? That would be my question to him, and I hope he answers it today for the Liberian people.
Thank you.
Do you believe the CPP framework document was altered? Yes or no? That is my question.
Thank you.
Looking forward to the answer.
All right, let me bring in my final caller here is Mr. John Maulo, who called the last time and he dealt with me. Even today, I'm enjoying it. Mr. Maulo, it's good that you are on the phone. Let us hear you, sir.
Yeah, hello. Thank you for allowing me to come back. Look, let's debunk some of the myths around here. First thing, this number, when last did anybody check the numbers we're talking about?
Mr. John Maulo, please speak a little louder. Let us hear you. And like I gave John Lobo, 2.5 minutes, I will give you the same 2.5 because I know you are supporting Mr. Cummings. I want to be fair. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah. Okay. I was saying that let's debunk some of these myths around here. This whole number issue, when last did anybody check? Because if it's 2017 numbers, let's not even go there because then George Weah will win us by 300,000 votes. So let this number nonsense stop. When people got nothing else to say, they talk about numbers. Oh, and Mr. Boakai got a number. Which numbers? Which numbers are they talking about? When last did they check these numbers? Okay. The second thing is what people made very clear to me and to the listening public. The CPP were not looking for a vice president. The vice presidency was never discussed. It was always the presidency. Mr. Cummings had continuously made it clear that he's not running for vice president. He's running for the presidency. If anybody wants to compete against him, let them come compete. And they will compete fairly. If the person wins, he will support them. If the person loses, he expects them to support him. And that's what is being ever since. It is unity party who knows that their man is not typical and keep on looking for Cummings to come to do his work so that they take the glory. And Cummings is refusing to do that. Now, when it comes to the third point, where people keep asking their question, why Cummings join the people, why Cummings join the people? Remember, 400,000 Liberians voted for this thing corrupt people you're talking about. Another 700,000 voted for the other one that is dead. And the rest of them divided all over the place. They were Liberians who voted. They were Liberians who find it normal in the things that they did.
You have 30 seconds.
If you run in a country when you don't deal with the people who the people believe in until you open their eyes, you cannot convince them that these people are wrong. You got to open their eyes.
Thank you.
To open their eyes, you got to start talking to them and dealing with them. Okay?
Thank you. All right, Steve, that will do it for callers for today. I think you're listening to the callers. And don't forget, George Lobo asked you a question. And let us hear your response.
So let me make a disclaimer really quick. I will start from the top and then go to the bottom really quick. Like I said earlier on your show, on Focus on Liberia here, I am not a supporter of Mr. Cummings. The day I decide who I will support, I will make it open to be said. We can say it. So when Mr. Cummings is in the wrong, we'll say he's in the wrong. When he's in the right, we'll say he's in the right. So if Boakai is in the right, we'll say Boakai in the right. Boakai in the wrong, we'll say it does not make anyone a supporter of someone. To the brother who first called and said I should admit that I'm a supporter of Cummings, my brother, when I make up my mind who I would like to support or who I will support, I will say it openly. It will be my right. And I want to say this to George Lobo and everybody else that I've been calling and wanting to brand me as a supporter of Cummings because I'm taking the position I'm taking, not addressing the issue. I want to say this to all of you. Being a supporter for George Lobo, being a supporter of Boakai is one of the biggest achievements he has in his life. That's okay. It does not mean I have to be like that. That's okay. That's what he chose to do. It's okay. That's his choice. I respect that. But you cannot be burning everybody. So that means the same thing with sedition. When you criticize George Weah, then you're opposition automatically. Also, when we criticize Cummings, that means a Tawan Gonglo man. When I criticize Tawan Gonglo, that means a United Party man. Oh, come on, man. Let's stick with the issues, please. Let's stick with the issues, please. George Lobo and his like and pass around and make any noise they want to make. The facts are clear. I'm grown. If I were supporting Mr. Cummings, I would say it. I want to clarify that. One of the callers talked about, I think he made a mistake. He meant the COP. He said, why I never answer a question about the COP.
Yeah, I think he meant the CPP.
Right. So I want to make sure I clarify that. He also, that same caller also spoke about Musa Ability. He asked if Musa Ability is a crook. Yes, Musa Ability is a crook.
What kind of crook?
Well, crook, my man.
Well, you put an adjective to Mr. Boakai. You say he's smooth. I'm just curious. What kind of crook is Musa?
Well, Musa is a business crook.
Okay.
As someone would say. Somebody would say, a crook is a crook.
Can you give one reason why he's a crook? Business crook?
And he asked if Musa was a crook. So, any woman to say Musa is a crook? I will say to you, Mr. Sieh.
Are you saying it because he wanted you to?
Oh, and at the talking point, I won't be passing around, be making comparison. You never asked me a question about Musa. He brought a point. So I'm aligning with him now. He said Musa is a crook. So I say, okay, Musa is a crook because he wants to, this
and
is
you say he's a business crook.
This is the thing. He's a businessman and he wanted to say Musa is a crook. Now, if he were to ask me if Musa is a crook or not, then I would have to give him an answer. He has to provide. Let me say this. I lay the evidences as to the continuous behavior pattern of Joseph Yuma Boakai to make me call him or term him as a smooth crook. Musa, as of yet, the similar behavior pattern I've seen of Joseph Yuma Boakai, I've not seen it to the Musa Ability side or Musa Ability. So I'm not going to say and say, oh, Musa Ability is a crook or Musa Ability is like that. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to be honest. I'm not going to do that. Joseph Yuma Boakai has shown a pattern of being a crook. He has shown it. And the United Party people know. Who said they don't know? That's why they don't come to counter the argument. They come to pick on these.
And whenever you come to that conclusion that Musa is this business crook, as you said, you will
no. And I clarify it that I was speaking on based on his point.
Oh, okay. Because I don't want you to say something because somebody is wishing that you said that.
Exactly, and that's why I provided clarity at the very end to say it. I don't see any pattern of the cookiness that they might claim that Musa is. Now, if there is a pattern, then I can research it. I don't mind researching Musa. I don't mind researching Musa Ability. Yes, if you say he has a case against FIFA, where in FIFA, let's stick with the facts and the issues. It will make a difference. You understand? So but let's come to George Lobo question of integrity. Let me say this. The first time I ever spoke to George Lobo in my life, it was because of integrity issue. The first time I ever spoke with him in my life, I saw him around. I knew him because I was playing football and he used to come on the field. You know, he liked me as a friend, you know, and he was one of my supporters when I was playing or whatever it is, you know.
Oh, wow, Steve, were you that good like me?
Yes, the man know what's up.
Okay, we'll leave that.
And his brother Magnus and I were very good friends, you know, so knowing from high school and so forth. So long story short, I got to know George Lobo based on, but I know his family, I know his mom, we're family friends, but he and I were never, you know, to say, oh, we're buddy or so forth.
So to the question.
I come to the question because I need to clarify that question. I need to clarify this part. For George Lobo to come in public and talk about he want to school me and question my integrity, let me tell George Lobo something in public. He can take those talking points to seditions. I am not your mate. I'm not your equal to bring that friskiness to me. I want to be clear on it. You can't question my integrity because the first time I ever met you, our very first interaction was on integrity issue. You gave me money during hard times. I took the money and you respected me for that day. For you to question my integrity, I found out a little concerning, but it is what it is. But let's get to his question. George Lobo wants to talk about schooling people about the CPP framework document. The fact that when the CPP brought up that document, let's be clear on this. The fact that when the CPP brought up that document, and the public, the very first one, the High Honor UA, which they term now as the original, brought up that document, and the public gave a huge backlash, and they took it back to the lawyers, and they made changes to that document with the acquiescence of all four of them, all four of the leaders. The document was altered from that day. They didn't know. So you see this, that's why I keep saying this is a propaganda and a fake, evil plan that they have. All four of them have admitted, all four of the political leaders, that yes, they all agree for the document to be changed. So yes, the document was changed with the acquiescence of all four leaders. Nobody went maliciously, criminally, and dubiously changed the document, as you said from the beginning. So you see, when people want to speak in context, we must speak in context. This document was changed from the get-go or was altered from the get-go because of the backlash from the public when they first released that very first draft. I can still record, I was on the phone. It was on a Saturday morning between 9 and 10 Arizona time I was driving. I got a call from someone, and I'm not going to call names here. And this person said, we've heard some of the noise you guys have been making. We've heard some of the backlashes. We've heard some of the criticism. Can you guys, or can you please jot a line or two about what you think and send it to us so that we can be able to look into it? Mr. Sieh? And I told the person, I said, nope. You're listening to the Liberian people. You're listening to the public. And you'll make the necessary adjustment. It will be good for all of us. So yes, this document was changed from the get-go. All four of them, they agreed that the lawyers would change it. So the issue is not about the document being altered. That's why you see them, they keep flip-flopping and changing the goalposts. 1 minute, it will alter. 1 minute, I'm not going to use the other word they're using because I find it a little offensive to whether women or whatever it is. I'm not going to use it here or anywhere else. 1 minute, signature was forged. When they move from document or alter, they can make the case that they switch to signature forged, or the other person did the other one. You know, they're just all over the place. Nothing is constant or consistent. So I want to say in a nutshell here that for all of the callers who call, I want to thank you. We can respectfully disagree, you know, but at the end of the day, once we start branding people as, oh, you're the other person, oh, you're that other person, without sticking with the facts, then it becomes a problem. So then how can somebody make the case against us too?
Okay. Steve, thank you. And thank you so very much for coming. I asked my questions, you provided your answers, and the listeners will decide based on what they know and what they think. That is how it is. And whatever way either one of us look at it, it was a very healthy exchange. I think we learned from each other today. We will keep discussing Liberia. What is your parting statement?
Well, I would have loved to use this opportunity to maybe, I know time is fast spent, to talk about the most recent publication from the, I thought that would have been one or two of your questions, but you run the show. I thought this would have been one of the important issue, the publication or issue by the U.S. Embassy today. Would have highlighted, but if not today, I know definitely SKTV will talk about it if we cannot talk about it today on this show. But I want to thank you, Ansony. I want to thank you for the time. I want to thank you for the opportunity. Thanks to Focus on Liberia. Thanks to our listeners and our viewers from all around the world. We must do this together. Even in our disagreement, we must do it together. I think it's healthy for our country. And I don't think it's against anybody personally. But I think it's important that we have these hard conversations. All of us, whether it is your political leader, it is your best friend, let's have these hard conversations. This is how change starts. We start to question one another. We start to question issue. We start to lay the facts on the table. Not necessarily whether you're part of a party or not, but the truth is the truth. You know, I remember one of our friends on the panelists with us, Telvina. You know, when Telvina would criticize Mr. Cummings, some people from the ANC would take it personal. And I would tell some people also that the criticism is not coming from a bad place. It's okay. It is okay. When she would criticize other leaders, she's friends with Yombly, she's criticized Yombly. She's friends with Musa Belede, she's criticized him. She's friends, you know, we're friends with these people. We criticize them. We can work together to do this thing. My last thing, Mr. Sieh, if I'm supposed to take 2 hours to get to Minnesota in a plane, very safe, and I'm supposed to take the same route to go to Minnesota, but somebody wants me to take a car, and the car is not even safe or guaranteed, I will take the plane. The case with Joseph Yuma Boakai. If you know that Joseph Yuma Boakai is old, if you know he doesn't have the resource, if you know that he's a smooth crook and he's not able to run the presidency, but because few people are pushing him, then you're not doing it for Liberia if you're behind him. Or if you're taking the standpoint of your gods or your heroes or other people who are lying to you. Agree to the hard truth that you can look into other people, whether that Tawan Gonglo, whether that my board, Dr. Kase, whether that Cummings, look into other people. Let us not waste our time. The country is bleeding. Let us not waste our time. Let's get the most efficient, effective, ready to go person. Not somebody who will be hoping that they get okay or everything is fine. No, we're not going to do that. We have wasted so much time. Thank you, Mr. Sieh. Thank you to Focus on Liberia. And until then, have a good day.
Mr. Steve Voleder giving his parting words. Thank you, Steve. Folks, before I give my statement for closing that I always try my best with, comes Thursday. Our program, Tough Talking Thursday, we will be discussing education, moving Liberia forward with education, and it's Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. The panelists are all well-versed. Webon Cooney. We have Mr. Gonglo will be in the house. Mohammed Sharif, Carl Famula, and Sieh Goya, focus on Liberia education analysts, will be here, and you don't want to miss Tough Talking Thursday. Also, this Friday, transitional justice is something that is still lacking in Liberia. And so Focus on Liberia presents Traditional Justice. Transitional justice. Is peace possible for Liberia? Mansa Washington. She was with the TRC. She's coming. Aaron Weir. Oh, he studies this stuff. And also, we will have a dear sister in the house. Tenant Dahlia will be here. She is doing a PhD in transitional justice. Also, folks, Focus on Liberia Justice Forum continues, comes this Sunday with Justice Cabinet General Councillor Frederick Jewer, and we're hoping also to have Councillor Jerome Verdier. The topic, the course of Liberia Part 1, Civic and Criminal Court. That's Civil and Criminal Court. You don't want to miss it. And also, revenue generation and job creations in the mining sector. The case of Ashla Mintal. We have a guest. It's Kaman Mulaba. He's a PhD, former mining engineer, production and grade control, Bond Mines Company. This man, he knows about money, and you don't want to miss it. And it will be happening at 7 p.m. Eastern Time on March the 22nd. You do not want to miss this. And folks, this is how I close it for today. The idea of a Boakai-Cummings ticket was just an assumption that could have become a reality, and that could have become a nail in a coffin for the CDC. Ambition and egos got in the way. The surrogates and supporters of both men felt that their guy was the right person, and so the other, they needed not. And so they went to war, despite going into a political marriage called the CPP. They will fight. They will fight, and so ruthlessly. They will destroy the CPP. That CPP is in tatters. Mr. Cummings is in quote, Boakai smiles. What a smile. Boakai smiles. Cummings is feeling the pain of a calculation he made, and he and his side continue to justify and saying, what could we have done? Oh, you were warned and you did not listen. But yet they argue that they was in this for the good of Liberia, and that they needed to work with all Liberians. That's their justification. They said they were good intentional. All they are good intentions. Good intentions are not always good when they are not realistic. And so I will conclude that they were not realistic. Despite the warnings and red flags and people pleading with them to leave, they will not leave. They even made the case that they will change them. You will change your URI. And you will change the United Party that claims it has the political wherewithal and experience to get this business done. The ANC will get the shock of their life. Their guy is in court. He's paying the price for a wrong and erroneous political calculation that he made. Unity Party, on the other hand, they are saying bye-bye. We have benefited. From their eyes, they have benefited. The guy who was considered as Mr. Clean cannot make that argument anymore. After all, the CDC got its knee on his neck. He can't breathe. His freedom has been restricted. He has to get a letter from the court to travel. Unity Party is singing hallelujah. Now, hey, again, we have proven our political supremacy. and smartness. We told you to be number 2. You will not obey the Almighty Unity Party. So you see, we are teaching you a lesson. Will he come from the court? Will he survive politically? Will he go to the race? And will he have a chance? There's this interesting thing called time. It will tell, and it will tell when that time comes. And for Boakai, his side is hopeful. They have a record of making it to the second round. But the first shot of that record by becoming number 1 in the last election. What I meant is they did not win that election, even though they made it to the second round. Where history repeat itself. Always Mr. Boakai get the last laugh this time. Money is his problem. But he said, no, it's not about money. Otto came with the money. The guy humiliated. I can win this thing because I am the people's man. Is he really? How he became the people's man? That's your history lesson. When you pay me, I will teach you. But for the free lesson you can get, I offer now. Oh, yes, he been in the game. Will he do it? The promised land is the executive mansion. It's just waiting for the guy who will win. He tried. He got defeated. He won only 1 of the counties out of the 15. Can he do it this time? After all, Mr. Weah has been given the greatest opportunity of his life, of his political career. A then unified opposition that was a threat to him disappear from the political landscape. They destroy each other. Weah is in a comfortable place, either way you look at it. Is he vulnerable? Is he stronger? If anyone is vulnerable, it's a Cummings, it's a Boakai. Well, his name is Tiawan. He's in the mix. Can he capitalize? I don't know. But it is his business to do so. It is his opportunity to capitalize on and make it happen. Does he have the juice? With the progressive resurrect again, Dennis Jah told me they will resurrect, but in different form. Will it be two Tiawan? I don't know. But I know one thing, that there will be the winner come what may. Oh, yes, there will be. Who that person will be, I will tell you during the campaign. And so keep following me here. I focus on Liberia, on the hour of politics, where we continue to give it to you analytically, informatively, than no other. And that is why we tell you we educate, we elevate, and promote all things Liberia. And so when I catch you and when I catch you again when that time comes, my name is Ansony Sieh, and I will close with this song. It's nationalistic. It is called We Are All Liberians. Whether Cummings wins or loses, whether Boakai wins or loses, whether Weah wins or loses, whether Tiawan wins or loses, my Liberia will be my Liberia. Except that that Liberia must still be in that same difficult place. That is why these men, I don't know about any woman yet, should be for Liberia and not for themselves. We are all Liberians, the song says, and that is the song that is taking us home. Folks, my cartoon is waiting for me. I have to go put it. Bye-bye, and I love you all.
We are Liberians.